Yeah, you can hear me. Hi, everybody. We're just kind of waiting right now for people to join on. Wish we could hear other people talk, because this is just going to be weird. You're just going to hear Sarah and I talk, and none of you can hear us. Or you can hear us, we just can't hear you.
We're learning about Facebook Live, everyone, so this is exciting. But we're not sure.
Awesome. We'll give a start in maybe like 2 minutes or so, and then obviously if people join late, they can take a time to rewatch the beginning. I feel like saying something back. Yes, Fiona, say something back.
Good. Molly's here, Elma's here.
Graciela!
Molly, Francis, Emily, Reed. Let's see. Abigail and Fiona and Kirsten, Isaiah, Emma. Hope I didn't miss anybody.
Francisco.
Oh, man.
We're all here. Bethany and the entire AmeriCorps crew. Awesome.
Whoa.
That's amazing, Kirsten. All right, well, we'll kind of just start going over some information for you all. Just a little bit of set the tone. Feel free if you join in to be able to, if you have any questions, please, new staff or returning staff, go ahead and write those questions. Bethany's going to be watching all of the questions to be able to see and bring them into a document so that if we need to be able to answer those, we can answer those more so at the end. We're just going to go through our PowerPoint at the beginning to get some of that information. And then returning staff, as you are listening, if you have any tips or questions or clarification, go ahead and put those in the comments as well, because I think people will be listening to us but can also read those comments along with it. And then if there's anything that Bethany thinks would be a good idea for us to highlight, she'll pull them over and then we can talk about them as well. So feel free to comment along so that we can keep the conversation going. So thanks for being here. And if there's somebody that can't be here, obviously all of this will be recorded on our Facebook too. So we'll get started here. So the goal of our webinar here first is just to give you all some details about camp, a space for you to be able to ask questions, and really be able to do some best practices sharing. Obviously, Sarah and I have a lot of different information, but we have not actually been in your specific positions. So you're going to be the one that's going to be helping to be able to guide conversations and tips better than we are. Anything to add, Sarah?
No, we're excited you're all here. This is the first time we've done this. We have noticed that a lot of staff have questions, especially new staff have questions leading up to the summer. So hopefully we can get those answered so you can pack, and then we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. So the first thing that we just want to go over, because you may not have a full understanding, is just the history of camp and BGCSF, especially for our new staff. Camp Mendocino has been around for 87 years. It's a really long time, which mainly just means that there's a lot of standing history and tradition associated with our camp. I'll let Sarah kind of take the rest of the Boys and Girls Club part.
So I spoke to many of you, if not all of you, in an interview about Boys and Girls Club a little bit. We're owned by Boys and Girls Clubs of San Francisco. BGCSF has 8 clubhouses in San Francisco. We're opening up our 5th school-based site, which means we're running an after-school program inside of a school. And then we also run a program at a local camp, plus Camp Mendocino. Boys and Girls Clubs is a nationwide organization across the United States, specifically Boys and Girls Clubs of San Francisco is who we work with directly. You can get more information about BGCSF at kidsclub.org. We'll talk more in staff training, but it's important to know this connection because about 40% of our campers come from a Boys and Girls Club clubhouse in the city, which means they are already connected to mentors and staff and people that are excited about helping them succeed. So we really want to capitalize on that and use our staff, use our resources to understand a little bit more about our campers. So we'll talk a little bit more during staff training, but you're a part of something bigger. You're a part of an organization that's been around. Boys and Girls Clubs of San Francisco has been around for 127 years and for 87 of those. So there's a lot going on.
Awesome. One thing that we just want to be able to go over is our villages. So we're now focusing more on camp. There's a lot of information and a lot of layers that you'll get to know about camp during staff training and obviously throughout the summer. But we did just want to give you a highlight of our different villages. For new staff, you may not be fully aware, last year we changed the names and some of the language that we used to refer to the groups. In the past, they had been Native American tribe names. And last year, there had been a decision that using those names didn't feel like we were doing the tribes the justice that they deserved. And it felt a lot of the times that we were kind of appropriating different Native American tribes. So last year, we worked with our Camp Council group, which is a group of teens and LITs that work to be able to make camp better. And we focused on changing those names. So they used to be called tribes. Village leaders used to be called tribe chiefs. And then each of the villages had different Native American names. So if you hear any of those old names being referred to, that's why that happens. I think everybody understands why we made those changes, but obviously language that you've used for 25 years can be hard to break. So it's just something to give a little bit of history for newer staff. But as you can see on the PowerPoint slide, this is the different age brackets and what we call the different villages. Some returning staff I know still sometimes need some reminders of where they are. But just as a little overview, and the village names, there's a lot of pride, a lot of joy, and a lot of connection that people have with those village names. And each village also has a logo that's associated with it. So counselors, you will not get your village assignments until probably about halfway through staff training, because we really want to be able to see kind of our whole group and where everybody would fit best into what age group and what village. Males will always be on the male side. There will potentially be some females on the male side. And so that's just something to be able to be aware of too. So take some time to look at these. You don't have to memorize them right away. They will definitely take on a personality of their own as summer goes on. The frogs, hawks, bobcats, otters, cellar jays, and coyotes, they all have their own village space. The owls, which are our teens, they are spread throughout the whole camp and act a little bit more as village or as junior counselors. They also help in the dining hall, so our owls are a little bit more dispersed, but definitely have a community of their own. Next is our org chart.
So we've got this, it looks a little bit different than org charts you may have seen in the past. At Camp Mendocino, we like to flip it upside down. I don't believe this is a top-down organization, I don't have the last say. I mean, I have the last say in a lot of things, but as far as camp, who we're responsible to, I feel that we are all responsible to the campers. So you can see, just to outline who's going to be at camp, we'll start from the bottom. That's me. I'm Sarah. I'm the camp director, and I really support Wayne and Mercedes during the summer and really all year. Wayne, on the support side, he's the assistant camp director for operations. He supports Steve, who's our caretaker. He's new to camp and doing a fantastic job. Steve is going to support the maintenance crew and anything else kind of that they need. Wayne and Steve sort of collaboratively, but more Wayne will also support the kitchen, the laundry, the infirmary. On the program side, if you go to the right, the assistant camp director for programs is Mercedes. She really focuses on everything program related while you're at camp. So she directly supports the program managers, OC Katie and Francois. And then they support the campers, they support the village leaders support the assistant village leaders, who also help to support the counselors. Everyone's also supporting the specialists, and ultimately at the top, we're all there to support the campers. And that's really important. We do a lot of work around youth voice at Camp Mendocino and want to make sure that we are supporting the campers, but we're also listening to them. They should be directing the ship to say, this is what we want from our camp program. A camp that's all for me is not going to be fun for the campers. So we really need to listen to them, and that's why we have it this way.
Next, so that's kind of a lot of the overview things around camp. We're going to start moving into some more details, which I know are super helpful for anybody to know. The next couple of pictures here are just some pictures, especially for those that haven't been at camp, to have a little bit of an understanding of the places that you would be staying. So right here is one of our main cabins. Each village has 4 different camper cabins that have 12 bunks in them that are kind of like this. And then all of them also have a village leader cabin. So village leaders will stay in that cabin. That's a space for the village leaders to sleep, as well as a lot of times where staff can keep extra things or programming supplies for your village. So most, for staff, you would have a bunk here. Most staff, counselors are going, and specialists are going to be in those spaces. You have that area under the bunk and kind of next to the wall as well. But it's obviously not a huge amount of space. Every village also has a shower house that you would be able to take showers. They are a little outdoors, as you can see. And so some mornings they are a little bit chilly, but you can be able to figure out when you want to take showers. Some people take showers during break times, which you would have in the middle of the day. So you'll be able to find your routine once you get there. Here's a shower. It looks like a shower. So there's about 4 in each of those places, and then campers obviously also shower during that place, and they usually shower around dinner time. So that's some of those main spaces. And if you are interested in more of the kind of specific pictures, take a look at campmendocino.org, especially under the rentals tab. We'll have more pictures on there that can show you some of the other facilities that you'd be in the dining hall. The picture here is during dining hall, but some other facilities that you should know about that staff that use. First is the staff lounge. That's about a 10-minute walk, 5-minute walk from main site, and that's a specific staff lounge for staff to be at. Steve and Wayne have actually been doing quite a bit of renovation work on it this past off season. So Sarah and I are going to be purchasing some more things to really make it a space for you all to really be able to relax, but also to be able to take care of and make your own. That one is a little bit off-site. You can be able to sleep there on your days off and on your nights off so that you don't have to wake up around youth. You can have a little bit of a sleep in the morning. Another space which we didn't take a picture of, but it's pretty basic, is the staff media room. That's actually right on site, right by the canteen and the infirmary. There's 2 computers in there, a TV with a lot of random DVDs and VHSs to be able to watch during breaks and days off. And so that's a lot of the times where people hang off on their nights off and break time. And then you also will have access to a staff locker. For returning staff, those actually are not going to be in the office this year. We're moving more into each of the village leader cabins so that they're in there. They'll also be in the staff lounge.
Correct, and they're new this year, so if you've been at camp before, They're not the U.S. high school combination lockers locks. You will have to bring your own, but hopefully that means everyone will know how to use it because it will be whatever you purchase yourself. We've had a lot of difficulty in the past. They're actually bigger. They're taller, and so hopefully you'll be able to use for whatever you need.
We recommend buying a lock, and then obviously as we have our stop up to camp, or as you do have some time to be able to purchase your own lock so that you can be able to access your own.
We'll also have some in the canteen, but we'll talk about canteen soon.
Woohoo! Great. Sarah's going to go over some of the arrival info and your first days here.
Thanks to everyone who sent their flight information to Bethany or I. We really appreciate it. It helps because we are really planning out how we're going to pick up about 35 of you from the airport. And so having all of that information ahead of time is helpful in planning and knowing exactly what's going to happen. So if you haven't, but you've booked your flights, please send it, even if it's in a Facebook message right now, or you want to email Bethany or I, that would be absolutely fine. So what's going to happen is when you fly into San Francisco, this is both for international staff and domestic staff, though San Francisco Airport is separated by terminal. So international staff, if you're flying directly from an out-of-country airport to San Francisco, you'll be arriving in the international terminal. You'll get your bags and everything, you'll have to go through customs. So part of this is challenging because we don't really know when we're going to see you, because customs might take 30 minutes, it might take 60 minutes, it might take a little bit longer. So what will happen is you'll exit, once you're done talking to customs, you'll exit that area. They sort of shuttle everybody into one location. And then if you turn to the right, there will be a Starbucks sort of at the end. It's not a very big terminal once you get out, so you'll be able to see where that Starbucks is. We'll have somebody standing there, and I'm not sure who it will be yet, but it will be somebody wearing a Camp Mendocino shirt with a sign that says Camp Mendocino, and you can go check in with that person. And then we're just going to do kind of rotations. We'll have a van that goes from the airport back to Don Fisher and back and forth. There's a lot of you, and again, depending on when your flight arrives and when you actually get through customs, we'll have a list of kind of shuttles that are going out. You may have to wait a little while for the next shuttle, just depends on what time it is. If you're international and you're flying with a stop, so you'll stop in, for example, some airport on the East Coast before flying to San Francisco, that's fine. You'll go through customs at that first stop. If you stop in New York on your way, you'll go through customs there, and then you'll get on a flight from New York to San Francisco. If that's the case, let us know so that we know we'll need to pick you up in the domestic terminal most of the time. Sometimes flights still fly into the international terminal. It makes it really complicated, but you'll mostly fly into the domestic terminal. So we'll try to have somebody standing there as well. I'll email you and let you know, or put on the Facebook page exactly where that's going to be, that we will meet you. I would recommend for anybody flying, domestic staff, you'll land at the domestic terminal as well. Anybody flying in, you can definitely connect to the San Francisco Wi-Fi, the SFO Wi-Fi. Check in with the Facebook page, and then we'll make sure that you've got somebody's WhatsApp number or Facebook Messenger, a couple of different ways you can get a hold of people. Most Camp America staff will wear their Camp America shirt on that airport day. That's incredibly helpful for us because the person who's at the airport may not know what you look like. And if you've got a Camp America shirt or a Camp Mendocino shirt and you're wearing that on that day, we'll be able to locate you if you look lost. And then returning staff often wear a Camp Mendocino shirt as well. That's really helpful. So take a look at that logo and keep an eye out for it wherever you are in the airport. We'll continue to post on Facebook just updates on that day. So let us know if you have questions, put them in the comments. We'll follow back up at the end and read all of those comments and identify them. What happens when we pick you up from the airport, we'll bring you to our Don Fisher Clubhouse. I think, is that the next one? Yeah, so we'll pick you up from the airport. We'll take you to the Don Fisher Clubhouse, which is one of our boys and girls clubs in San Francisco. It's pretty central in the middle of the city. And you'll have some time once you're there to let your stuff down, depending on when you fly in. If it's in the middle of the day, you'll leave your stuff there and you'll be able to go out and explore, get anything that you need, and then come back. We'll list for you a couple of places nearby and where you can find things that you need, or do a little shopping, or get some food, or just walk around. And then we'll have some pizza or something that evening, probably around 8 o'clock. I'm looking at everybody's flights, and it looks like that's a good time. That might update when I get everybody else's flights. And then everyone will stay at the Boys and Girls Club that night. You're staying in the gym. It is not luxury accommodations. This is not a hotel. This is not a hostel. But it is someplace free that you can stay, and we'll make sure everybody is together. So you should make sure that you've got your sleeping bag, pillows, whatever that is that you might need. There's not really a Walmart or anything nearby. So if you really, are struggling and you're planning to pick something up at Walmart on the way up, let me know and I can help you brainstorm. But ideally, you're bringing with you at least something that you can use for that first night. There are showers and restroom facilities available there. So bring those supplies as well. The next morning, we'll have some light breakfast. We'll do any last minute paperwork. We'll make sure to collect anything from you. If you need to turn in your TB tests or you need to turn in any of those things, you can do that morning. And then we'll get on the bus and we'll drive up to camp. We will stop at Walmart for like 15 minutes. Like we're going to try to just like go in and go out. Corralling 50 people in a Walmart is ridiculous, but we'll try to just go in and come back out. So if you've got a list of last minute things that you weren't able to pack that you want to bring with you on the bus, that will be an option. We'll get up to camp that night. We'll do a brief orientation. We'll all have dinner together, and then we'll start training first thing on the morning of June 11th. It's going to be awesome. If you've got questions, put them in the comments. We'll answer them at the end.
Cars. So for domestic staff, I know there are usually questions about cars, and I'm just going to give that back to Sarah.
Yeah, it's me again. Hey, we do have some space for some cars. If it doesn't make sense for you to go to Don Fisher and take the bus up, we have some people that live closer to camp, for example. It's silly to come down to San Francisco and go back up. That is an option. Reach out to me specifically. We don't have a ton of space. It's much easier for us if everybody is on the bus, but I do have some ability to make that accommodation. So just email me directly and we can figure that out.
And same if you are somebody that lives close and somebody would be dropping you off, again, make sure that you just connect with Sarah so that we can be able to make sure that we know who's coming in. For those of you who haven't been at camp, it's about, from the closest town on either end, it's about a 45-minute drive in. 20 minutes of those drives is on a very windy kind of highway road, and then the other 20 minutes of sort of that are on a gravel road. So it's really important that if you or somebody is driving into camp that you've connected with us, because it can get a little confusing and sometimes just a little anxiety provoking if you haven't done it before. So please make sure to check in with us. Awesome. Sarah's also going to talk more about paperwork.
I get all the fun stuff. So most of you, especially most of the international staff, have completed your Paylocity paperwork. Thank you so much. That's really helpful for a number of reasons. One, we want to, get everything done before you get up to camp. But also today we sent in something through our pay card company. We'll talk about that in a minute and how you're going to get paid. But if you've already completed your Paylocity and we have all of that information, including your, your date of birth and your address and your social security number, all of the things that you would have put into your Paylocity, then we were able to send that to the company, and you're going to get a pay card that has your name printed on the card. It's amazing. If you haven't done your Paylocity paperwork yet, that's fine. If you've been hired for a long time, well, you've just procrastinated, and that's okay. We don't judge, but that means you're just going to get a blank pay card that won't have your name on it, and we'll have to get that set for you, after you've been at camp for a week or two. So thank you for everybody that's done their Paylocity. If you've still got a TB test or fingerprints to do, international staff, you don't have to worry about fingerprints. Camp America did that for you. Please get on that now. It does take some time for us to get the records back. And if we don't have your fingerprint records back for domestic staff before camp starts, then we can't have you working one-on-one with any kids, just to make sure that we're being safe in all areas. For domestic staff, if you live in California, please get your fingerprints done ASAP. There's a form that's online on the Paylocity site that you can take. It will not cost you anything. They'll bill directly to us. It only takes a few minutes. If you live outside of California, that's great. You won't be able to get your fingerprints done because we need to search the California database. I know it doesn't make a lot of sense. because if you've never lived in California, you won't have a record here, but it's just something we need to do to kind of check the box and make sure we're doing everything we need to. So if you live outside of California, that's fine. When you get here, that first or second day of staff training, we have someone coming to do fingerprints on site. So don't worry about that. Just show up. We've got it marked down that you live outside the state, and you'll just do them that first day when you get to camp. So no stress about that. You will get paid on it's like a credit card. It's not a gift card or anything like that. It's a debit/credit card, and all of your money will be loaded onto that. So you'll be able to use that just like you would your own bank card. For example, you can make purchases online, you can use it at a store, you can use it at an ATM and take money out of your account. And this is a new company this year than we've used in years past, and hopefully it's much better. We had some troubles last year with the card that we were using. So this is new. I don't have all of the information specifically about it, but I do believe that you should be able to take money and be able, transfer it to, a bank account or something like that. So we'll give you more information about that during staff training, but yeah, it should be really good. It should be much easier this year for especially international staff. It's easier than us giving you a check, because if you're in the middle of the woods, what do you do with a check? We figured we didn't know either. So we've got this set up, and that's going to be great. The last thing about paperwork is when you get to Don Fisher, that morning that we're doing paperwork, one of the things we'll need to do is to check your passport or other identification documents. It's a form called the I-9 form. It's for the U.S. government so that we can prove that you're eligible to work in the U.S. So international staff, that means you're bringing your passport, and typically that's your visa, your J-1 visa that will be in your passport. And then for other staff, there's a whole list of documents that you could use. I'm happy to send that out so you know exactly what that is. For most people, it's either a passport. If you bring a passport, that's fine. That's the only document we need. Or it's some combination of a driver's license and social security card, or a driver's license and birth certificate. So I can send that out, but make sure you've got those documents with you on day one so that we can confirm that you're eligible to work in the U.S. And check that off. If you are local to San Francisco and you want to bring those in to the office early between now and the 9th so that we can check them and you can leave them at home, absolutely fine. Get in touch with me and we can make that appointment.
Awesome. Packing. So before you come, you need to know what to bring. The first thing that we recommend is you usually bring around 12 to 13 days of clothes. You will have access to laundry that will be about every 10 days. Returning staff, we're trying to make sure that our laundry is a little bit more organized this year than it was last year, but we do want to make sure that you get that you have your clothes laundered every 10 days. That is included. The main thing that we want you to know, especially, I mean, really any staff, but international staff, bring what you need, but you don't need to bring too much. You will have access to be able to go to stores during days off and be able to buy things if you need them. So don't feel like you need to bring everything you own, because if you forget something, it's okay. And we can be able to get you something. There are people that are going into town on a regular basis. So if there is, an emergency thing that's needed, we're not going to be doing, trips all the time. They're kind of personal trips, but we can be able to get you what you need if you forget something. One thing that people always say is it's colder than you are thinking. We know that a lot of the times there is a vision of sunny California, and there are definitely days that it is warm, but the evenings are going to get chilly. So make sure that you bring enough pants. You don't want to bring all shorts. Make sure you bring some sweatpants or some jeans, whatever you feel comfortable in, and some sweatshirts, and maybe at least one kind of light jacket that you can be able to wear. I don't think you need like scarf and gloves, but a beanie is definitely helpful for overnights. So bring a little bit more of that stuff.
And for international staff, to give you a sense of the temperatures, overnight it's going to be about 10 or so. That's about 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And during the day, it can get up to like in the mid 30s or in the 90s Fahrenheit. So plan for both extremes.
Yeah. And dress code we'll go over a little bit more, but you can be really comfortable at camp. The disco duck, which is our dance every night 8, Some people like to wear something a little bit nicer, so whatever camp fancy is for you, you can do that as well.
I usually just wear sweatpants.
And I wear a bow tie, so it's up to you. So yeah, just if you have specific questions, you can put them on the Facebook page. Returning staff have been really great about being able to just give some suggestions. Really make sure that you bring a towel and a pillow and a sleeping bag for that, especially for that first night, because you can't be able to buy those things around the office. And we have had some people that haven't brought one of those things, and we don't always have extras. So just be aware of that. Be mindful of your valuables. You will have lockers that you can put things in, but if you can leave it at home, it's probably best to leave it at home. Laptops is sometimes up to you. There isn't Wi-Fi that you can be able to connect to at camp, and so that's just something that you would really only be able to use on your days off. But I know sometimes people have editing machine, like editing software and stuff like that. So just think about if laptop is something you want to bring and that you're making sure that you're keeping it safe. Jewelry and like really stuff that's sentimental. If you want to bring it, we probably suggest that you don't wear it all the time. So just thinking about those types of valuables. The things that are good to bring are hobbies and self-care items, especially if there's things that you want to share with the youth. It's great to be able to share those things, whether if it's a guitar or if you play a cool instrument, or if they're, if you're really good at hacky sack, I don't know. You can be able to bring those things to kind of add that. But also those self-care items. We're going to talk a little bit more about just like how do you support yourself. But if you have a journal or if you have a yoga mat or things like that, those could be really good things to be able to bring to help feel centered. On the Facebook page is a PDF of our theme days. So take a look at that. If you have fun accessories, if you have fun costumes, you can be able to bring those things. If you don't, and if that's not your thing, that's totally okay. Or, camp is all about making stuff, doing homemade things. So you can be able to make things while you're here too. Medication, make sure that you have enough, if you do have medication, that you have enough medication for the summer, thinking about the time that you would be there. That medication will be stored in the infirmary. And that the infirmary will be kind of, giving you access to those things. The main reason is because you are in the cabin with youth, and kids don't always know what's around. So even kind of ibuprofen and all of that stuff, we make sure that we keep that in the infirmary. So bring those things if you need them, but also know that ibuprofen and allergy meds and kind of Pepto-Bismol and that basic stuff, all of that is accessible in the infirmary, and so you don't need to bring those things. We will have access to that. But if there's something specific that you like, go for it. As we mentioned earlier, it's good to bring a lock to be able to lock up your locker. You can bring whatever vessel you have to be able to bring your items in. But knowing and thinking about your storage space, especially for our counselors and our specialists, there's not a huge amount of storage space. So just thinking about, if there are things to be able to kind of organize, or if you have bags in bags, stuff to be able to create your own organization for your things once you are in the cabins. And then just, again, remember, if you forget, there's always Walmart, there's always Walgreens, there's always Safeway. You can be able to buy those things while you're here. Cool. Go for it, Sarah.
So we have a canteen at camp. Our canteen is our camp store, and we've got some cool new things that returning staff will be excited to see this summer. We have basic things. We have things with camp logo on it: hats, sweatshirts, shirts, sunglasses, sweatpants, pajama pants, blankets, all kinds of stuff. And then water bottles and flashlights, all kinds of that stuff. We also have just the basics that you might need while you're at camp. You want to send a postcard, buy international or domestic stamps. That's great. I'll talk about calling cards in a minute. We also will have some toiletries. So if you run out of sunscreen or bug spray, you dropped your toothbrush in the toilet or something, we have all of those things that you might need. And then we also have some snacks. We'll have snacks for the campers during the day, and then we'll have some additional snacks for staff at night. We try to utilize a healthy food policy, especially with campers. And so the snacks that you'll see during the day are things that, things like goldfish or pretzels, or things that we feel good about our young people eating. And then we know that this is a long summer for you all. So at night, we'll try to do some ice cream or hot chocolate. We'll have some teas, that kind of thing. So you'll have that. We do take credit card and cash. We also will take your pay card at the canteen. So we can utilize that. As far as calling cards, if you are, if you'd like to get a hold of some people while you're at camp, we do have a payphone. It's like circa 1989. So we understand that most of you have never used a payphone before. But in order to do that, you will need a calling card. It doesn't take a credit card or anything like that. We'll have some calling cards at the canteen for sale, but you can also get them ahead of time if there's one specific that you like. And if you set it up, you can just have recurring payments. So it really just depends on where you're calling and how long you want to talk, but usually it's a couple of cents a minute, or even a little bit less than that, depending on where you're calling. There are some online resources where you don't even need a specific card. I usually use like ringbritain.com. Sounds silly, but I just re-upload my kind of account as often as I need and can use those numbers. So if that's important to you, you can reach out if you've got questions, but we will have calling cards available at camp that will work both domestically and internationally. So domestic staff, it's the same. We do have cell phone service, very, very limited, about a mile hike from camp. There's no cell phone service in the middle of camp, but some people utilize that. If you are wanting to connect with somebody via email, for Gmail users, often when you're logging into a new computer, they will ask us to, they'll ask to send a code by text to your cell phone so that you can now log on to the email from your new computer. That won't work at camp because we're, we don't have cell phone service. I don't have a particular piece of advice on doing that. I'm going to look into it before the summer, but if that's important to you, know that it's going to be challenging and maybe look into it now, or set up a non-Gmail account, or we can all kind of help each other figure that out.
And with the calling card information, we'll post some of those links onto the Facebook site so that you can be able to take a look if you just want to set up a calling card ahead of time, so you don't even have to worry about having an up-to-date one. Dress code. So thinking about your dress code, a couple of things. We first just kind of used the three B's of just being aware of what's out. So that's your boobs, your butt, and your, what's the other one? Belly, right. So just making sure that those things are covered in a way that's going to feel appropriate for being around youth, being around parents, and just thinking about how you're presenting yourself. But other than that, it's pretty casual. Most of the time people are wearing t-shirts and shorts. Being aware of your short length and just for that they're at a certain level, usually around the fingertips if you put your hands down is a good measurement. You can be able to wear tank tops. It's preferable if they're a little bit thicker strap, but we really do trust if for you to be able to make your own judgment. If we do feel like something's maybe questioning, myself or Sarah will have a conversation with anybody that has that, and we just want to make sure that we're being able to present in a way that is comfortable for everybody.
We also want you to be able to run and jump and do all of the things that you will be required of you at camp. We do ask that you wear closed-toed shoes all the time, and with things like spaghetti strap tank tops and things, they're not always conducive to being highly active. So that's part of the thought as well.
Shoe wear, which I didn't put a note on here, but we do ask that people have closed-toed shoes on, ideally with ankle straps as well, because the main thing is if there is an emergency that you would need to run, you're going to have appropriate shoes for that. Now, we also recognize that having your feet in sneakers all the time with socks can be hard. I just unabashedly bought a pair of Crocs because I think that they're going to be okay for summer, because sometimes your feet get wet too. So thinking about your shoe wear is actually pretty important because you do a lot of walking. So buying a pair of shoes that you feel like is going to be okay to get dirty, that's going to be a good pair, and maybe having at least 2 to 3 different pairs of shoes is good, because if one's getting pretty funky or something like that. Bathing suits, making sure that they're just at a certain level, that however you want, that they're a little bit longer, or that they're covering your stomach in a way. So making sure that you're thinking about that. And then you can wear really whatever clothes you want as you go around. We will provide you with a staff shirt that you can be able to wear on the first, during our changeover days. That's the only time that we ask that you wear a certain shirt. There are some times where we may say, you know, there's some visitors coming in and we may ask you to wear your staff shirt on those days. That's about it with dress code. The other thing that we want to go over is around just the overall Wi-Fi and phone. Sarah's kind of talked about this, but things to be able to set up the people while you're gone, letting them know that they won't be able to access and talk to you on a regular basis, but you can give them the cell phone number. We will have the cell phone number, not the cell phone number, the office number. So if people do have an emergency, they can be able to talk to Bethany, and Bethany can be able to give you that message if that's necessary. So that's kind of what happens in case of an emergency. Service, Sarah has already gone over that service and internet situation and the calling card. If you are international and you are traveling after camp, you may want to think about getting a SIM card. That's something that's up to you. We do ask that people don't have their cell phones out while they're at camp. We will have some music devices at camp. If you do want to be able to download music that you're playing, make sure, A, that you're downloading that music ahead of time and making sure that we have the clean versions. We really need to make sure that the music is appropriate for 8-year-olds, since that's our youngest age. So make sure that you download them. I'm also going to post, I just found that Spotify has these cool little music players that I think are about $80 that you can be able to use without Wi-Fi. So I'll be able to put that, if you have a Spotify account, you may be able to download that as well. The other thing that we want to talk about is our drug and alcohol policy. Probably to no surprise, alcohol and marijuana are not okay on site during camp when campers are there. And this is important for a lot of different reasons, because we want to make sure that everybody is in a completely conscious state of mind, because there could be something that happens at any time. This is also saying that if you are on a day off and you leave and come back, you need to be 100% sober when you come back to camp. This is something that, to be honest, can be an ongoing problem. And so we do want to make sure that it is a high expectation. So if you are somebody that participates in drugs or alcohol or marijuana, really start to think about what your relationship with that is before you come to camp, maybe cutting back, just thinking about that. Because it's something that is a really zero tolerance policy at camp, and we want to make sure that we're setting a safe environment for everybody that's there. Which goes into the next part, which is a little more around the coping and self-care. We'll talk a lot more about this during staff training, but really thinking about camp can be a really stressful time. It can be amazing and it's a place of connections, but it can also be really hard. If you're somebody that potentially struggles with anxiety, or just, you know, stressful situations can be hard. You will have a support system at camp that is there to support you and make sure you are okay. But really thinking about what your coping strategies are and how you're really thinking of taking care of yourself. We couple this with the drug and alcohol because some people use drugs and alcohol to be able to cope, and we just want to be able to be open about the realities. Again, we'll talk about this more during staff training, but it is good to be able to do a little bit of reflection of yourself before you come up to camp and are put in some of those stressful situations. The next thing, which is kind of an abrupt shift from that, but we also just want to talk about food. Food is really important up at camp, and the food at camp is really great. It's really great for about 15 days, and then a lot of the times it starts to repeat itself. The menu is basically the same every session, and Marty, who is our executive chef, who's volunteered for 20 years, is amazing. But we also know that people have different dietary restrictions around vegetarian, vegan, and gluten-free. There will always be options for vegetarian, vegans, and gluten-free. Sometimes those options may repeat a little bit more. So if you are somebody that has dietary restrictions, you may need to supplement some of those things ahead of time. If you're somebody that eats a lot of vegetables, you know, you may want to be buying some extra vegetables to be able to supplement your diet. If you're somebody that eats a lot of hot Cheetos, you know, you may want to be able to supplement with some junk food. So we will provide food for you, but really thinking about what type of food you like and makes you feel good. And those are some things that you may be able to supplement, and you'll probably will supplement those during your breaks and your days off, because we do want to make sure that our staff are being as equal as they can with the campers and eating what is provided for them. So if food's something that you want some more information, again, you can reach out to Sarah and I, but we'll talk more about that.
Great, moving right along. I'm gonna try to do this in about 5 minutes, the next couple of slides, so we have time for questions. If you've got health insurance, bring your insurance card with you. You never know what's gonna happen at camp. As Mercedes said, we're about 45 minutes from the nearest town, which means we're about 45 minutes from the nearest hospital. Knock on wood, everything is going to be great. There will be no issues, but occasionally you may need to be seen for something. It makes it a lot easier if you've got your insurance card with you. Camp America staff, you've got that information through Camp America, but make sure you have access to that information. I will have it as well if we need it. You are covered under our workers' compensation insurance, which means if you get hurt on the job while you're actually working, then our insurance will kick in and cover that. We can talk more about that as it comes up, or hopefully doesn't come up during the summer, but we wanted you to know we do have that policy there. Mercedes talked about having your medication in the infirmary. We have 3 infirmary staff that we're working this summer, and they will be, somebody will be on call all the time. So if there's something that goes on at camp, if there's a medical need, we have some staff at camp that are ready and able to handle that, and we have a fully stocked infirmary. So for example, international staff, if you're worried that you get a headache and you might need some paracetamol, we'll have some of that available in the infirmary. You don't have to bring all of those basic things, but you will need to bring any prescription medication that you can.
The next is breaks and days off. So obviously you're there with camp all the time, but you will have breaks to be able to relax. So things to do is just sleep and not be around youth. And really enjoy nature. We have 2,000 acres, and it's really great to be able to go hiking, to go swimming with a lifeguard, to be able to really enjoy being out in the woods. You're going to make really close friendships really fast. So it's great to be able to get some time to meet new people. You will have some opportunity to go into town. Camp doesn't coordinate a huge amount of transportation, but we are going to try to figure out how we can do that to be able to get you into town at least a couple times throughout the summer. We do usually have some staff that have cars that are usually able to take a couple people into town to get snacks. If you're not able to, there's usually people that are willing to pick some stuff up for you as well. Breaks are also great, and days off to be able to make cool stuff or to be able to plan a program that you're really excited about. And also to call people around at camp. So a lot of the times it's really about kind of decompressing, having some reflection time, and just rejuvenating. What not to do, we're going to talk more just about how to create a comfortable environment both when we're on and when we're off. And we'll talk more about just our community around boundaries, but what you do during your breaks and days off, it still affects what you still affects your employment. So really thinking about how you are being a leader and making good choices all the time. We've already talked about making sure that you're not coming back to camp on any type of altered brain during a day off, and that you're also coming back on time, whether you've had a 2-hour break or whether you're coming back from a night off. The days off actually go from midnight to midnight. And I know sometimes that can be a little weird to figure out. It works. We'll let you know how you work it, but your days off are during that time. And you, but also the road closes at 10 because we don't want people driving on that windy road late at night. So we'll talk more about those things, but we do have some rules and regulations to be able to make sure that everybody in camp stays safe. And sometimes those things can be a little hard to follow, but we'll break all that stuff down for you once you get up to camp. The last thing we want to go over, and then we'll open it up to questions that you guys have been commenting. We've already talked about laundry, actually, so I don't need to go over that. But also, you're out in the woods, so there is going to be some wildlife up at camp. Mosquitoes are there, and so we will sell bug spray at the canteen, but do making sure that you have some type. Body wash is also a big thing with mosquitoes. The fruitier, the more that they like you. So really, sometimes having unscented things is better because then the mosquitoes aren't as attracted to you. Oh, I said beers. Ha, that's funny, but it is supposed to say bears. No bears. There's no beers. There should be bears.
Hopefully
there's not bears. There are some bears way out, but they don't come back down to camp. It's something that some people are sometimes worried about, but we will be able to keep the beers and the bears away. There are deer that actually do come down to camp. And so you will get to see some cool deer. There are actually a lot of raccoons at camp as well. There's some cool foxes too, but the raccoons like your snacks. So we'll really talk about making sure that snacks are put away in a safe space so they're not eating you up. And then staff training.
Yeah, I'm going to post something on the Facebook page that gives you a little bit more about like a typical day of staff training, because I think we've got a lot of questions we want to get through. They're going to be long days. Plan to, to be there and to hopefully be really engaged in all of our sessions. We've done a lot of work this year to make sure that you're not just sitting in lectures for, 8 hours, 6 days during staff training, that it's really interactive, and we're hopefully covering all of the things that we think you'll need to know and that returning staff feel like you need to know as well. So I'll post more information on Facebook in the coming days and weeks. So what I'd like to do is just go through some of the questions that we've been posting on the comments, and then if you've got other questions, now is the best time to start posting them. One question: what time are we leaving camp on August the 6th so that we can buy return bus, train, or plane tickets? You'll probably get back to San Francisco no earlier than 5 o'clock. I would say between 5 and 6. Typically you'll leave after lunch, like 1, 2. I wouldn't plan anything for really before 7, just if you're booking a plane or a train ticket. Can we bring or donate movies to the staff media room? Yes. Sounds great. We've been collecting them from some staff at the Boys and Girls Club, but yeah, you absolutely can bring some things to donate to the staff media room. Internet access, I think we covered. If you've got a more specific question, put that in the comments and we can answer it. To make sure, I need to email Sarah if I want to drive my car to camp. Yes, please email me and we can talk about the specifics there. A question: what happens if I arrive a few days late? Please don't, is the answer to that. If there's some outstanding circumstance that prevents you from coming to Don Fisher on the 9th or the 10th, email me directly and we can figure out what that specific situation is. We've planned staff training so that it continues to build on itself, and we'll do a lot of team building, and we're really working on building relationships with all of you. So it's hard if somebody comes late, just to be completely honest. It's hard for you and it's hard for us. So please try to be there, and if something comes up, let me know specifically. If I leave the country, do I need an ESTA to get back to America before flying back home? I'm not entirely sure. I think you may. I think it depends what country you are going to. If you're going to go, for example, like to Mexico and come back, you may not need that, but I'm not sure. I can talk to you a little bit more offline about what I might know. Camp America is a great resource for that as well. I would maybe contact your Camp America for that. Did you say 10 as in 10 Celsius is the coldest that it gets? Not the coldest, it could get colder, but for us that feels very cold, so yes. Closed-toed shoes, how do I feel about Chacos? I think Chacos are fine. The closed-toed variety, the like sandal variety where your toes are wiggling free, no. But if they've got the closed-toed on them, just fine.
If you want to bring those types of things for days off, you can. But we want to make sure while you're around walking at camp that everybody's following those same rules. You can be able to bring flip-flops. For the shower was something that we didn't talk about. That's usually a good practice. And we do allow open-toed sandals literally from the village walk down to the river and then back up, but not when we're walking around being active.
I don't understand the short lengths requirement. We'll cover that a little bit more when you get to camp, but basically don't bring your booty shorts to camp. They should be appropriate so that we're not seeing any part of you that an 8-year-old shouldn't be seeing. So we're going to trust your judgment right now. If you need a requirement, if you're standing up straight and you have your arms hanging by your sides and the shorts are much shorter than where your fingertips land, really reconsider those shorts. But we'll trust that you've got this, and we'll have a conversation if we feel like your shorts are too short. Are we covered on insurance for days off? For international staff, you have insurance through Camp America, so I would look at that policy first. As far as your workers' comp insurance. If you're, for example, you have a day off and you're going off site, you're not covered by our workers' comp insurance unless you're like at camp working. So I can talk more about that if you need. Where will you be dropping us off when we leave camp on the 6th? It'll be in San Francisco. It will likely be at the Don Fisher Clubhouse where you are picked up to be taken to camp. That's 380 Fulton Street. It's very nearby a BART station and other public transit options. Unfortunately, the TV just plays videos and DVDs, so we don't get regular TV channels. So World Cup fans, I'm sorry.
We can't be able to updates on scores during flagpole, which is something that I know at past camps we've done in the past. If there's a big group that's interested in that, we can be able to make sure that that information is shared with you, because we know that you want to be able to support your sports teams.
Great. What about vape pens? I'll talk about smoking in general. If you are a smoker, we do have a smoking area, the tobacco smoking area. We do not have a marijuana smoking area at camp because we'd like you not to be under the influence of marijuana. But if you are a tobacco smoker, we have a smoking area that would include where you would do vape pens, even if the vape pen doesn't have marijuana or tobacco in it, but you'd like to do that. We'll have a place that you can do that. Unfortunately, there is a bit of a hill you've got to hike to smoke.
Tobacco vape pens are fine. We should really be aware of how you're storing those things when you're with campers. So, well, if you are somebody that wants to smoke tobacco, we'll talk more about that during staff training, but you can bring tobacco.
Kitchen staff, the dress code is just like it is for everybody else. It should be comfortable. You should be able to work. We do have some jackets in the kitchen. Make sure that you're covered in all of the right ways. Marty, who's the executive chef, he's going to be supervising the kitchen. He'll give you more information on the first day, but we don't have a specific uniform.
I hear that you can't hear me. I just talked about tobacco. You can bring it.
When we're leaving on the 10th, if you are arriving to Don Fisher on the 10th, you should be here before 10 a.m. And we will finish everything up, and then we will continue on with our lives and get on the bus. If you're driving and you've already talked to me about it and you're interested in just caravanning with us up so that you don't get lost on the way to camp, that's a great idea. You should also be there before 10 a.m. and all together.
And then the last thing, Bethany, an AmeriCorps, shout out to the AmeriCorps member, said that Gmail has changed things regarding the email or regarding the text. So you can actually end in a backup email address to be able to do that code. But you will have to do that probably the first time you log on to one of the staff computers. And we've also gotten a suggestion to bring loads of socks. Your feet will get sweaty, and those are not things that you want to re-wear. Usually your sweatshirts and your pants you can be able to rewear a couple times, but undergarments, socks, and t-shirts, if you wear that more than one day in a row at camp, you are probably going to smell a little funky.
Reiterate, in the kitchen, you don't need to bring your own chef coat and pants. You're welcome to, but you'll probably be one of the few people that have it. Most people just wear jeans and t-shirts and then wear our kind of either an apron or our chef jacket on top of that, or just shorts and t-shirts. That is fine. Just to clarify, on days off, it's impossible to leave camp without a car. We're working on it. The short answer is yes, it's very difficult. Impossible is a stretch, but there is a bus that picks up about a 20-minute drive away. So we're trying to figure that out, but do not plan on being able to leave camp if you don't have a car or you haven't made good friends with somebody with a car. It's a beautiful part of the world that we're able to be in this remote environment, but it also is challenging.
We just don't have the people to be able to drive into town, and so it is a bit of a logistical challenge. But Sarah and Wade and I are trying to be able to find some alternative options. But we also need to make sure that we have people on site that can drive kids in case of an emergency. So it's hard to be able to and camp staff to be able to drive into town. But we usually throughout summer we can sometimes be able to figure out a couple of trips into camp or into town to be able to get what you need.
Great. So don't count on it. Is the short answer there? I don't want to make promises we can't keep. All right. I'm trying to see if there's any other questions here. I think that's it.
Awesome. Well, we'll continue to post things up on the Facebook page. If you have a friend that's going to be working at camp that didn't get a chance to be live, please encourage them to watch this while before they go, just to get all those details. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to the Facebook, put a question on the Facebook page, or you can reach out to Sarah and I. And we'll see you in about 3 weeks, I think. Woohoo! Woohoo!